Hey everyone, welcome to Tellor Dev Call. August 28th, last one in August. Summer is over. But uh yeah, no, great week. Lots of things coming. So uh if you guys didn't know, last week I posted an article on Nick's thoughts on oracles. Um some good takes in there. Some people have reached out, and I think overall you guys liked it. So um anyway, it's preparing for what a lot of you probably already know is coming. We're working on like kind of announcing and getting ready for Teller, the next step, the next phase.
You almost said it.
Yeah, I know. I'm not saying it. I'm keeping the name secret. If we have a solid name, we're not generally the best at these kind of things, but it's still going to be Teller. We're not like rebranding or anything like that. But yeah, so we're just working on that. And that article thing will be probably out next week, I'm guessing. So get ready for that. But we still have lots to do kind of in the meantime. We're supporting a lot of users. Definitely getting the word out there and trying to make things happen. So anyway, Tim, Akram, anything? Or Tim, I know you're working on the data specs stuff too. Anything else going on?
Yeah, I'm hoping to meet with one of our users this week about that data specs registry,
Oh yeah,
just to kind of get some feedback on from an outside perspective on interacting with that front end and stuff. And then otherwise, doing my research,
cool.
basically.
Akram, I think you had already went, so you're good. But Ryan, anything you got going on?
Yes, I'm working on trying to get the diva pools to show up on the tip table. Came across basically I have to set up another graph, which should be fine, but made some good progress just to get to that point. And then working with Tim on the data specs registry documentation, and I'm going to do a walkthrough video of that as well.
Oh, nice. Cool. Spotty?
Towards the end of last week, I was doing research, as we say, but I also added a spot price feed for Diva because you know, if somebody created a Diva protocol pool for Diva's token without that spot price feed built into Telia, we wouldn't be able to automatically settle it with Telia. So I put that in, even though it's just kind of just based on CoinGecko right now.
Nice. I mean, where does it trade?
Uniswap.
Yeah.
It trades on Uniswap, but Uniswap doesn't have the US dollar price up on the API, the Uniswap API.
Okay, so you'd have to go on chain.
Yeah, we could do that. Yeah.
But yeah. Cool. And then you updated the Discord FAQs.
Yeah, I changed the Discord FAQs a little bit because since the last time I updated it in April, I updated it in April. We got 3 more users since then. The user list is now, and I will look because I forget sometimes.
Just surprise them. Tell them you have to go look at the FAQs.
You have to go look at the FAQ.
Go look at the
to
FAQ.
see the users list.
Go let us know if you want anything else on the FAQs too.
Yeah.
Especially if you're like new and watching this. Like,
yeah, I mean, I made that FAQ a long time ago because
right.
We used to get a lot more like token flipper trader types coming in the Discord that would ask like standard questions. Those types of characters have largely exited the market now. So if you want to see something else on the FAQ, let me know.
Yes. Cool. Well, yeah, and then I think we got a bunch of questions. If we want to just kind of dive into those. You guys have been very active, which is super cool. Been trying to get on there in the Discord and answer some of them, and but it's great to see kind of the channel active. Brian, don't know if you want to kick that off.
Let's do it. The We'll start with Mayumos. Looking back, do you think it would have been smarter to distribute TRB slower over time to reporters instead via proof of work within a few months, which has nothing to do with data reporting? Doesn't incentivize data reporting. How would you do it today? Same? Why did you do it like that?
Yeah, I mean, I can say why we did it like that. Like you basically like ICOs and stuff were very, you didn't want to do large pre-mines, like, and it was just regulatory, not sort of a thing. It didn't really incentivize people properly.
And
You know,
it did incentivize data reporting. Like you had to
well, we
report
did
data.
incentivize data reporting.
Yeah, you had to report data to get the rewards. I think what he might mean is that it didn't incentivize any specific data, like for users, which it definitely did not do, but got the Oracle data flowing in general.
Yeah, I don't know what I would have done differently. It sort of all is working out, I guess you could say, but
and in general, we didn't want to do specific feed anyway because we didn't know where the demand was going to come from. So, and yeah, major regulatory issues for the US.
Yeah, no, it's all kind of an experiment, and I think, to be honest, like everybody, especially in the bear market, you see people like posting like tokenomics reviews and books and lessons on how to properly do your tokenomics, and they'll have people design their tokenomics for them. And I will, yeah, I am largely of the mindset that it does not matter nearly as much as people think it does. Other people like to, you know, how you tweak it, and it's this perfectly designed system that's going to, you know, that
would you say that they're perfectly designed systems to gear towards what the speculators would like, I think.
Well, it's more like, yeah, what
it's like
what is the speculator going to like, not how you design this perfectly, because it's like same with econ. Like if you have the Fed and like, you know, like some of those mathematicians will try and be like, oh, if we can predict, you know, demand will grow at this much, and then we can target the interest rates and model it out perfectly, and they never get that right. But just imagine, like, for tokens, like speculative demand goes up and down by like 10,000% in a given month. Like it just flies. So there is nothing you can do to counteract that. Absolutely nothing. So work on, like, if you want the price to go up, work on getting that. If you want the usage to go up, just build a decent product and try and focus on it and get people to try and not look at that price number when it's going down or up. So yeah, it's so hard. But
is it because it's like such a young industry, or do you think even long-term tokenomics still doesn't, there's like no real way to lock it in?
Long term it should, but yeah, it's like
one thing.
It's definitely one of the big reasons, though, Ryan, because like it's mostly speculative at this point.
Right.
And we're still trying to find like the big use cases, the long-term vision even for it. So everybody's just betting on it.
Yeah, I mean, I would say it's similar like with a stock. Like if you focus too much on like how you mint a stock or the price or, you know, in dividend numbers and stuff like that, and ultimately it's like, that's great. And I'm sure there's some MBA out there who thinks it's phenomenally important, but like just go out and build a good product and like things will be fine. Like you're just missing the point. But, yeah.
Cool. And we have a newcomer here, Leo Devta.
Woohoo.
Tech question.
Ooh.
Leo's asking, how does Tellor address the challenges related to scalability, update costs, and interoperability that are often associated with oracles? Specifically, how does Tellor tackle issues such as the high costs of operating on multiple ecosystems, the lengthy update intervals due to gas fees, and the lack of cross L1s and L2s interoperability resulting from differences in execution environments, block times, and programming languages?
We have a really good answer next week.
Well, I think, yeah. I mean, who wants to give it a stab?
I gave it a stab in the chat when he asked this. It was kind of like, the answer to all of that is like, to answer that question is just to talk about how Tellor works
Yes.
in general. I mean, you got to talk about how all of the different functionality of Tellor. We scale by deploying on all the different chains. Like there's a Tellor Oracle on each blockchain, that you would want to use. Mainnet, Polygon, Optimism, Arbitrum, Filecoin, FVM, like wherever people are building, there's a version of Tellor there that's made for that chain. And you bridge TRB tokens to stake and use it. That's how Tellor scales currently.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's solid. I mean, right now we're kind of only just on EVM chains for the most part. So it's, getting on other things isn't necessarily that big of a deal, I would say. Yeah, and then costs, like we largely designed the system so it wouldn't have to be burdensome on sort of the developers. It's, it's not like basically people pay for costs and it goes to the data reporters. And so if users want more data and more throughput, then they need to pay for more, and then it can scale as fast or as slow as you want it to be.
I would say here at this point also that the cost to get the data on chain, to write the data to the chain, it's the same for Tellor as it is for Chainlink or whoever else is doing it. It costs, we're both just putting the number on chain, and there's a gas cost to do that, so yeah, the cost is kind of something that we can't change. We can't really make Ethereum less expensive.
Yeah. But yeah, no, thanks for the question. It's great. Definitely keep looking into how Tellor works. And so.
Mayumos liked your Oracle article. He's saying he would like to earn money, download an app, and report supermarket prices, fuel prices, weather data, and even my health data. Also, people have so much personal data. How will they get money for it?
They need to find demand for it.
Yeah.
Was he thinking about inflation data maybe?
Yeah, I like we had sort of talked in the past, like how do you actually do a decentralized inflation index? And Brenda's going to be posting something about that soon as well. If she doesn't, yell at her to do so. But yeah, so like the general idea is this is like with any size data set, like a lot of data is really, really useful. Like if you have 1 million rows of pricing data across, the nation, that's super useful for showing inflation on a monthly basis. The problem is that how much can you possibly, like each individual data point is not necessarily worth a whole lot. So paying somebody, hey, I want you to upload this price, it's not going to be very much. And that's actually in general, like people are always like, oh, like we'll pay for you, if we use your data on Facebook or something like that. And it's like, people are always disappointed because it's like never anything. Like any platform that has ever tried that, it's like, we actually can't sell your data individually for that much. So it's not worth your time or effort. So, it'll probably turn into something where I don't think it's going to be like self-reporting, like come use our platform and make 10 cents and upload it. It'll probably work similar to how, like the Bureau of Labor Statistics does it now, whereas you have specialized people you're in charge of going to grab, like you'll be like a professional reporter or a validator here, for Tellor, but you'll just be grabbing a whole bunch of prices and uploading them. So each individual point is worth 10 cents. You're not just uploading your grocery bill. You're in charge of going to your grocery store and uploading all of it. And it's going to take you a day, but you're going to make some money. And that's how I think it'll probably work out more in the long run. So then when people have demand for it, it'll more support these workers. But I don't know, Brenda, do you have a different thought on that?
Yeah, I mean, especially at the beginning, I think it's going to be a lot of more like data, what is it?
Data scraping is another one.
Data scraping. Because of your point, it's like one point of data is not really enough to create an index. And the issue with incentivizing people, it's, you know, in general, most surveys that are like government surveys, they don't pay people for their data. This is all data provided voluntarily. So for us, at least at the beginning, we'll at least have to cover the cost, maybe if we wanted to go that route, or if that would be supplemental to data scraping. Because it's just, you know, for you to create a big enough group to make sense of the data, it's gonna take some time. But time and at least covering some of those gas costs, which we'll still have to figure out how that's going to happen. But so
Yeah, we should come up with a name like the government where people think it's actually mandatory when in fact it's voluntary. Because I feel like that's what happens with like most government surveys. Like the vast majority of them are voluntary, but people, you get a message from the government in an official envelope and you feel like you have to send it in. But I don't know.
you'd be surprised how many people do know it's voluntary and still provided. And they already do it for the government. It's just a matter of convincing them to also, you know, provide it to us for
Right.
free. So
Probably feel like they're affecting change in the world by providing these numbers. Right?
yeah.
Cool.
So there you go. There's the line. There's the copy right there.
Nice. All right. Anything else?
Yeah. We got Mayumos again asking, will oracles become also a data marketplace like Ocean Protocol?
Well, this was one that I had sort of said before, and
Then Ocean Protocol reached out in the Discord more than once, I think, right?
did they?
Yeah.
Oh, if we wanted to be a provider.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean that's like, I think some of the issues with like the data market. So like what you could do is say like you have an ETH US dollar price feed. So somebody could come up and make like a data market for an ETH US dollar price feed. So they would do it on Tellor and say like, here's my feed. And then somebody else would say, here's my feed. And then whichever one parties are, you would tip and basically pay for subscriptions to a certain one. The problem is like, I see maybe in the future it working like that, but there's nowhere nearly enough demand for one feed, much less multiple feeds. Like, you know, nobody's being overrun, and you basically have to have, like right now, the way that the market is split up, it's like the different oracles are the different marketplaces. So like the user, whoever wants a feed of data, picks based on what oracle they integrate with. It's not, they're gonna, basically if they would pick like Ocean Protocol and then they would have to pick the more specific one, it could just, you know, like that's just not how the market's split at the moment. And I don't think, you know, like lots of protocols have tried this in the past, and there's never enough demand to fit to basically break down and support all of these different feeds. And usually like the main feed that's run by the team is the one that usually gets, or the largest guy will be the biggest one. So like, let's just have it, you know, build a system that's actually more just about supporting a write feed versus write by competition, in a way. That makes sense. No. Cool.
Sorry, I got distracted by Mike.
All right. Anything else?
Oh yeah. Continuing down the line here, Mayumos is also asking, how do you imagine Tellor collecting the raw data of inflation? What could be transparent methods for collection data?
I think we
Data
covered that. Yeah.
What is a fair market price? Why is subjectivity freedom for L1s?
Ooh, yes, we had talked a little bit about a fair market price, and this is, whenever I talk about fair market price for like a price feed, what we're talking about is that there's actually not, like whenever you want like the ETH US dollar feed for like, you know, let's say liquidity, you have this basket of collateral that's sitting in ETH, and you want to know when you should liquidate it. Basically, you want to know, you need a price feed that shows what's the fair market price. You don't want a price feed from an exchange that goes up and down just based on liquidity. So like, you know, if Coinbase flash crashes down to, you know, ETH is $1,000. Yes, that's a valid price on an exchange and via an API, but that is not the current fair market price of ETH. Like ETH is, you would actually want to just keep it at $1,800 because on every other exchange, it's still $1,800. Or if, you know, like, let's say, you know, there's giant uncertainty in ETH and liquidity dries up. So this is a problem with like housing prices. Like if the market gets super turmoil or interest rates, you know, bank rates freeze up, like nobody can buy or sell things. Like the liquidity is just gone. So if you're trying to price something, you have no liquidity to price it on. There is no fair market price right now. So like you would be best just waiting in your protocol. But that's actually not what a lot of protocols who build on top of Web3 do. They'll just like try and grab a price anyway on a super, super thin illiquid market. And it's not secure, it's not relevant in any way, shape, or form, and it leads to some bad consequences. So I think what protocols will do is basically, they already do this in traditional finance, is you're going to try and weight it based on volatility, based on liquidity, trying to show that like giant movements or, you know, movements that happen in times when markets aren't active, they don't necessarily matter as much, and the protocol shouldn't care as much about them. So I think that explains it. But, yeah. Anybody else have anything?
That's good.
Yeah, and then the subjectivity question. This is just like, I think ultimately like there was a little bit of a ultimate L1 security. It does not come down to like staking amounts. So like ETH, even if you bought, everyone's like, how much value could ETH secure? So like if you like got a whole bunch of the ETH and staked it, you know, how much would it cost for you to just break everything and steal people's money? The problem is that it's not just capped at like 51% of the stake. You know, like you couldn't just take 51% of the stake, go stake it, and now go take over ETH. Everyone would just say like, no, that's not a valid fork. Like we're gonna fork you away and it doesn't matter. So what happens is now all of a sudden ETH security is way, way higher. It's basically, you know, infinite given a certain value spec for securing underlying data. And that's super powerful. You know, so I think making sure that L1s sort of preserve that is really important, because you'll see a lot of times people will talk about like Oracle protocols or or even, you know, other L2s or things like that, and they'll say like, listen, the max you can put on this chain is going to be, you know, 50% of their market cap, which is like $100 million. This thing's kind of worthless, and it's just wrong. It doesn't, you know, like if you have subjectivity and you have the ability to fork, it's wrong. So that's why I think making sure that you preserve that in whatever the using system is very important.
Yeah. Somebody on a what was it, a Twitter space last week? We were listening to a Twitter space, and someone was arguing that an Oracle project market cap had to be like 2 times higher than the TVL of the protocol that it's securing. Otherwise, a 51% attack is going to happen. And that, as a generality, is kind of just absurd because like you can't just say like, oh, I own this Oracle and this Oracle secures that DeFi protocol, I think I'm just going to take that over now. Like there's actual on-chain mechanics that you would have to like wizard to make it work, and you know, it's not going to work. You can't just like take over the world because you have a you know, a whole bunch of DRV or something.
No, well, I mean,
It's a lot
even
more complicated than that.
it's super complicated, and just any off-chain actor, off-chain components matter more. I think, like even if you're going to hack any protocol, the idea of like, yes, theoretically, like if you like can take out a flash loan of this amount and then move the Oracle price and go steal it, you can make hundreds of millions of dollars. And it's like, yeah, so therefore it's not secure. Well, it is if there's zero liquidity for you to ever sell any of that, and law enforcement is going to come after you. It's plenty secure, you know what I mean? So like, depending on how the off-chain stuff is works and how transparent that is, like it doesn't necessarily work just like the code says. So,
and especially for Tellor, as long as the user is waiting for that dispute window, they're like, there's time for people to dispute a bad value. It doesn't matter if you have the entire TRB supply staked. If the user is waiting 10 minutes before they use it and all of your submissions are getting disputed, you're just giving people your stakes, until you're out, until you're out of money. So you're not going to win anything by doing that, except, I guess, stalling Tellor for a while.
anyway.
The job of oracles are massive. Will Tellor be a network of specialized oracles, each for different data requests, like a legal system oracle where lawyers stake TRB to give a legal answer, and other lawyers can dispute them, similar to scientific questions and scientists?
Good idea, maybe.
I could see something like in the future, like that's why we always maintain, like with Tellor, that this is what sort of does differentiate us from other people, is that we don't have to have broad consensus across reporters. So like, if you ask Tellor a question like, what was the result of this sports match over the weekend? Maybe a lot of people don't know it, but there are some specialized people who might be able to report it. So like you don't need every single reporter to know every single answer. And in the same way, you could move it towards things like that required certain legal expertise, or even like, some people have talked about off-chain computation. Like if you eventually, like you could put, requests on chain that required you to have a data center or a quantum computer and put the result on chain. It wouldn't be necessarily open to everybody, but it would be more specialized. So yeah, that's something that we definitely maintain the ability to do. However, it's not like, I don't see it happening anytime in the next year or so, as far as quantum computing or lawyer reporters. We don't like lawyers either. So, yeah.
What is an oracle for a last resort for a price feed? How do you envision a decentralized court for a bot vote, or a last resort way to pass an admin key back to a hacked frozen protocol? How would an oracle handle that?
This one's easy. So this isn't like my thinking on Tellor. Like other people have done this too. So you would use like, the protocol could just, like Liquidity, for instance, could say that they're just going to use the Uniswap price feed on a delay, so like a few blocks. But anybody can basically freeze the whole system. So this is similar to like the Maker system in a way, like where they have an hour delay on their centralized price feed. If somebody pays a whole boatload of Maker, you go and you basically say, listen, we need to freeze the protocol. It freezes, and then an oracle would say whether or not, listen, this is broken, go to give back admin key, freeze the protocol, let's liquidate, or something like that. And in the same way, like you could be using a normal price feed, but then anybody could say, I'm going to go burn a whole boatload of money for the ability to kick off a vote, and then we decide whether or not us or Tellor or whatever other oracle would decide, do we get the admin key back? And it would work.
It's like third-party resolution, but all the mechanics have to be handled by the protocol. It's up to them whether or not they would want to give any oracle that type of power.
Yeah, well, and it would make sense maybe to have like oracle input. The only reason versus like doing it in your own protocol is like, depending on how that thing was structured, might be under attack, and your governance token might be compromised, so let's fall back to somebody else's, basically, who might be like neutral with us and kick things back. So.
And yeah, I guess that's probably where he went to that next question is, do you think Tellor will be more like Claros V2 in the future?
And what did I say? Not really. Some ways, I forget. I just responded to it like 10 minutes ago, so I don't know. But yeah, no, you can. Claros is good, but you have to set up oracles for certain pieces. Like, depending on what I was kind of talking about, was it can be more of a moral question for a lot of these decentralized courts issues. You may not want. Like, I know Liquidity doesn't necessarily have like a governance token, so they might be a good example of somebody who would fall back and use like Tellor or like a court for handling questions like this, and you want to be more code as law. But for some reason, for some things you might not want to. Like, we had like the example I had sort of given in there, like if North Korea came and staked a whole bunch of Tellor tokens and they were starting to be honest stakers, they were just using their Tellor tokens to be honest stakers, and they're a known terrorist group and they're profiting off of this, and then somebody raises a dispute and says like, listen, we're just going to dispute them out of here and slash them, and that goes over to Claros. Like, let's say we're using Claros as a settlement for whether disputes are bad. What should Claros say as far as what's a good dispute? Maybe Claros would say, no, they didn't do anything wrong. They're allowed to be reporters. That might work. That might be the optimal outcome. But let's say like we're all Americans here, and we, in our documentation, we say that we're a pro-America protocol and we're going to always support American values first. Would that change the Claros outcome? Or, maybe we would want to own that decision ourselves. So yeah, it's super, super hard.
This is just an upstanding North Korean citizen.
I know. You don't know.
You don't know.
It's tough. But anyway, yeah, if any regulators are watching this is purely theoretical, and nobody's doing that. So anyway, yeah, those were all the questions, I think. But
there was one more actually from Lesko. For oracles to succeed, they're going to have to move beyond, or he's quoting your article. For oracles to succeed, they're going to have to move beyond the middleware role and do more. They'll need to be data creators, not merely providers. What's Tellor's plan here to get there, or the next few smaller steps?
We'll just throw that to wait a week for that answer, but I think
Part of the plan.
Part of the plan, yeah, for sure. Anyway, great call, guys. Thanks everyone for chatting. Good night.